Today we are going to talk about the revitalized peace agreement. The parties signed the deal in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa in September 2018. The peace deal is expected to end the civil war. The observers blame on political wrangles between President Salva Kiir and main opposition leader Dr. Riek Machar. Now, according to reports, the 5 years of fighting, which was triggered by the two leaders, has crippled the country, which saw mass rape, millions displaced, and almost 400,000 people dead from violence and also diseases. Civil society activists often blame parties to the new peace deal for initially delaying the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement, and according to them, nothing much has been achieved. Others say the country is over-relying on humanitarian organizations, while the few politicians consume the little money generated from the oil and non-oil revenues. Now, according to the United Nations, weak and absent state governance institutions have also enabled spoilers to exploit perennial communal and ethnic divisions. Now, on the other hand, in June this year, the chief of United Nations mission in South Sudan commended the new unity government for launching the permanent constitution-making process. Nicholas Haysom acknowledged as a positive step the reconstitution of the transitional legislature and also ongoing efforts to unify the army. Now, this leads us to the following questions. What's happening within the SPLA-IO? Senior military generals have left Dr. Riek Machar's camp after accusing him of nepotism, dictatorship, loss of vision of IO, abandoning and ignoring the plight of SPLA-IO soldiers at cantonment sites, and also self-centered politics, accusations Dr. Riek Machar went silent about. Will these misunderstandings among the IO members interrupt or even affect the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement? Well, joining me right now in the studio to shed more light on this particular story is Dr. James Okuk, a political analyst, and it's good to have you with us today, Dr. Okuk.
Thank you, Emmanuel Akili.
First, let's start with the genesis of this problem happening within the SPLM, SPLA-IO. You've been following the current political situation in the country, Okuk. What is really happening?
It is a frustration of the delayed implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. And almost 3 years down the line, since the signing of this agreement in 2018, nothing has moved significantly, particularly in Chapter 2 on the security arrangements. And that's the reason many generals are not happy, not only on the side of IO, but also on the side of the incumbent Tigono. And this frustration is the result of really lack of political will from the top leaders who came to Juba here to forge the way for the revitalized peace agreement. And the other reason is lack of funding to the activities that have been scheduled in the revitalized peace agreement. And all these are contributing to increase of frustration, plus the economic situation, which is not improving the livelihood of the people as they expected. And as you rightly put it in your introduction, many are still displaced and many are still really suffering and all this. And we can see from the declaration of the IO generals in Kitgwang and later when they clash in Meganis, they are blaming Dr. Riek of having neglected them, because I remember they have been even writing to IGAD before that they would like their commander-in-chief to travel to the control areas that they are in, so that he can really enlighten them on what's happening with the revitalized peace agreement. But also those generals are to blame for why Chapter 2 is not moving forward. For example, General Garwich Dual is supposed to be in the security mechanism in Juba here, co-sharing with the chief of general staff of the SS PDF. But he has declined all along, and the same with General Oleng he was appointed once, was nominated rather than appointed to be the governor of Upper Nile State, but then President Kiir was reluctant to appoint him before he could come to Juba. And there have been push and pull here for him to come to Juba, but he failed to come to Juba. As a result, I think they changed the nomination to another person. And that added to anger that he has developed toward Dr. Riek Machar here in Juba, and also toward President Salva Kiir. But then all along they have been saying that they have not abandoned the implementation of the agreement, right, despite the fact that they are not happy, but right, they are with the revitalized. Exactly.
Right, and this point actually takes us back to why, according to the statement you just gave us, that from the beginning they refused to, or they declined to come to Juba and join the mechanism for the implementation of security arrangement. And now they are saying, Garwich and Ulony, that they are for the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement, and yet they don't want to come to Juba to be part of the implementation. Does that mean from the beginning they don't really trust this peace agreement? They are not really happy with the agreement?
Exactly. They have a low opinion on the implementation of the agreement, and they are afraid of what happened in 2016. Mm-hmm. So they want to come with a military guarantee. Either they come here with their forces, or they come here under the unified forces. That's what they have been pushing on. And the two have not been accepted. They cannot come here with their forces because the agreement doesn't allow any politician or any general to operate parallel to the unified setup of the forces. So each one has to stay where they are until unification is finished. So they cannot come to Juba with their forces, right, and they cannot gamble coming alone here without their forces, because they are not sure whether they will not get into trouble. And with the restriction that we have seen for some politicians, being prevented even not to travel out of Juba, it add to their fear not even to come to Juba, and this made them to be in the areas where they are controlling, and they have been there without a really serious channel of communication with Juba. And finally now, because in military, if you lose communication with your commander, then it is not good news.
Right.
Thing can develop into a confrontation direction, and it is actually that's what happened in Meganis after these years of wrangling within the SPLM-SPLA.
Right, and do you think it is actually one of the genuine reasons? I mean, do you buy the idea of Garwich and Ulony saying that Riek Machar has actually abandoned the vision of SPLM-SPLA-IO? I mean, they talked about nepotism, that Riek don't really care about soldiers at the cantonment sites. I mean, people also say that Riek has nominated many of his family members in the new unity government. What is your take on this? How do you look at this? Isn't it a genuine reason for them not to or to actually move away from Riek's camp?
It's not a very genuine reason, because when they were fighting the government, the family members of Dr. Riek were fighting along their side. And they did not complain by then that why were they fighting the war as a family member. When it came to the division of position, particularly for the wife of Dr. Riek, Angelina Teng, they protested seriously, because they wanted one of them to be the Minister of Defense rather than Angelina. So that created a disappointment when Riek appointed Angelina. But Angelina has been also their Minister of Defense when they were in the bush, and they did not complain. So why do they complain when it is within the government? So that also, disqualified their justification of Riek appointing the family members. I don't remember another family member that Riek has appointed apart from.
They talk of the
from the
minister. I mean, people outside there are talking of Minister of petroleum, for instance,
The Minister of Petroleum come from another area totally. They are not from the same, even the same village with Victoria. So that's a mix-up. It's not true that the Port can come from the family of Victoria. It's not true.
They also give an example. I mean, some people, some members of the public are also talking about the Minister of Health, for instance.
Yeah, also the Minister of Health come from another tribe even. It makes it even more distant than what people are saying. Because he's a Dinka, Nariak is a Nuer, so I don't know how...
There's nothing to do with even in-law.
How are they coming? Even in-laws that they are talking about, we have not seen a marriage of any of the daughters or son of Victoria to this one. So
yeah.
people are just talking about it, but if you go and verify, you will find out that there are facts that are missing in the whole. So it turned out to be more of a propaganda. It's political propaganda. And when people are actually fighting for position, those propaganda are always there because they help pushing you out, and then the other one come in using this propaganda. So it's a competition tactics that they are using. But this one does not also exempt Victoria from some blames, because the security arrangement was supposed to be actually completed 90% during the pre-interim period. But he accepted to go for formation of the government without completion of security arrangement. So that was the first blunder that Victoria created, and it is the result of what he is getting now. Had he insisted that let the pre-transitional arrangement be completed in time before the formation of government, maybe it would have been a different story for now. Then the other reason, he accepted to just stay in Juba here without bothering to visit the places where his forces are, even to get outside the country to talk with his political base abroad or wherever it is. So he has neglected them.
And Gadwich on that is saying that is confined here, that he's not allowed to move out of Juba, for instance?
How can
First
Vice President not be allowed to move out of the country? It's not true. Of course, we had COVID-19, which we understand. It restricted some movement. And that's also a justifiable reason why almost the year 2020 got lost, actually, because of restriction of the COVID-19. So it's understandable why people were not traveling. But he could have traveled if he wanted to travel, but I think he doesn't also trust these commanders on the ground, because yes, he doesn't trust them the same way they don't trust him. But they have been in the union of convenience all along, because they had a common enemy that they were fighting, but they had a loose relation and mistrust of each other. So that's why they don't feel comfortable to get to the territory of each other.
Right, and before we finish this part of security arrangement, Dr. Okuk, you earlier talked about also some generals from President Kiir's side. I mean, like the former government, for instance, they're also to be blamed for derailing the security arrangement implementation. So can you talk more about that?
Yes, it's also true, because there are a lot of changes that have been taking place within the SSPDF leadership structure. And some come in today, they are there, tomorrow they are moved. Then the new one, when they come, they have to start from afresh. So it delays also the process because of too much replacement.
But are they to be blamed for it, or the appointing authority?
They have to be blamed together with the appointing authority, because they have their commander-in-chief, who is President Salva Kiir Mayardit. He has also been moving them here and there, changing them here and there, and this has affected the progress in the implementation of Chapter 2. And also the issue of money, because when the agreement was negotiated, it was the incumbent Tigono which should give money for those activities. But when the parties came to Juba, I think the incumbent Tigono failed to give money out for those activities, and this became an issue. And I remember IGAD and RGMEC issuing a statement that the incumbent Tigono need to honor its commitment and give out the money for the security arrangement. And some of money were given later, but we understand also corruption played a role. And you can also blame Kir when he has given money and general ran away with the money. Also, you have to blame those generals.
But that's under NPTC.
Yes, that's what happened. And up to now, people are saying even audit need to be made so that we know actually what happened to the 100 million thousand that was given for the security arrangement during the pre-interim period. Because now, if we are still talking of forces not being graduated and there was money given for their graduation, where did this money go? So there is a question mark, and we need the Auditor General also one day to go and verify what happened. And it will be discovered that, you know, some general played around with the money that could have implemented the security arrangement. So that's where you can't blame President Salva Kiir in that regard, because also he did something, but also it was messed up by the others, although he has his own blame and all. So all in all, we are saying, with what's happening now, all sides have to be blamed. Each one has also played their negative role in what's happening. And now the result is coming out to threaten the progress in the implementation of the revitalized agreement, and the region is becoming concerned, the international community is becoming concerned. Then everybody want to jump out and say, oh, it is not me, it is the other one. But all of them have been contributing to why the implementation is very slow up to this time.
Right. And Okuk, I do understand you're well aware of what happened in Magenis last week after the group of Garwich hosted, according to them, IO, they hosted Dr. Riek Machar as the commander-in-chief of IO, and they declared that Garwich himself was the interim chair of IO. And a few days later, clashes were reported between factions allied to Dr. Riek and Garwich, and as a result, more than 30 people died. But the situation was immediately contained. First of all, what do you think actually prompted the fight? And do you think there was any intervention from any side, maybe the government here or maybe the neighboring Sudan?
Yes, the fact that the fighting took place at the border with Sudan, I think Sudan played a role to calm the situation. And we appreciate them for what they have done, because the fighting took half a day, and then the rest of half a day actually it was a damage control that Sudan was doing. And they managed to really put the situation back and create, restraint so that, those generals can start talking also with Dr. Riek here, which has happened actually. They opened the line of communication. And that one now will minimize any chance of another clash, because if people are communicating, it means they will not give contrary order for their forces to start fighting. But we have been observing that there has been underground politicking going on, and the declaration was just even coming late. It would have been even earlier than that, because from the time the IO divided its own share of power, I think that's where a lot of politicians who didn't get what they wanted, they became unhappy with Dr. Riek, and then they started also collaborating with those generals, because the generals were not happy also because they were not getting. So they had a common ground of being unhappy with what's happening in Juba. So they were agitating all along that actually they need to come up and replace Dr. Riek if possible. What they didn't know that the agreement inscribed the name of Dr. Riek as a person. So you can, unlike the 2015. So just replacing him like that, it means throwing the agreement away, which the government here will not accept, because it is the basis of the legitimacy of President Salva Kiir himself is this agreement. It is the basis of the legitimacy of all the ministers, even the MPs who are appointed now, it is this agreement. So if they play around with it, then their legitimacy to govern South Sudan will be questioned. So that's why everybody is holding to that agreement. Holding to that agreement, it means you have to tolerate Dr. Riek being there because his name is inscribed. So this is what those generals and those politicians, they fail to really solve that formula, which the agreement has put very clearly. And then they were also you know, not agreeing among themselves that who should replace Dr. Riek. I remember some suggestions were for Henry Odwar because he is the deputy to take over. But Henry, because he was a minister here and whatever, he couldn't decide. And then he was also sick, so he left the country back to Canada.
He
so
resigned
he
yesterday, actually, as the Minister of Mining.
He resigned because he's implicated in the Kitgwang Declaration. And he signed later the support for Kitgwang Declaration. So he can't do all these because all the underground movement that he has been doing now, they have surfaced. So he cannot, he has no face except to resign. That's what happened for him. And that is acceptable, of course, in politics. If you find yourself that your underground mobilization didn't work and you get caught unaware, then the best thing is to resign so that you don't complicate things. Right. And then the rest also, there is another one called Dwer Tut, who also declared himself as the interim chair for Riek, and then they couldn't agree with Garwich, and later Garwich declared himself. And this became the two declared interim chairperson of the SPLM-IO, right, which the agreement will never allow them to become the interim. Right. At all, if the place of Dr. Riek has to be taken by anybody, there are just three conditions that the agreement, even the constitution,
what are the
gave.
Conditions?
The condition that either he died and then his place remained vacant, then it is the political bureau or what they call the top leadership body of the SPLM-IO that will sit and then nominate now who takes over.
The other condition?
The other condition, if he become physically incapacitated or mentally incapacitated, with a doctor confirming that he is no longer fit for the post. So that's where they can come and replace him. The third one, if he disappeared from Juba and his whereabouts is not known.
Even if he resigns, is not enough?
No, the resignation has not been given as an option there. But these are the three options. And because the resignation is not desirable for the implementation of the agreement, because two of them, particularly President Salva Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar, are being given a special responsibility to lead the implementation of the revitalized agreement and put the transitional period in order so that the parties can go later for election. And if they want to go for election, up to them. If they want to retire, then up to them. That's what the agreement say.
But with the current situation, Dr. Okuk, what is your advice as a political analyst to parties to the agreement? I understand Gadwich and Olong, with the Dr. Riek Machar here, with government also coming in, calling for calm. It is all part of the current political situation in the country, and especially the security situation. And what the common citizen of this country need most right now is silencing of guns. How can this happen?
My advice is that they need to apologize to each other because they have not been cooperating all along. They have been stepping their back. And they didn't know that this is even dangerous for their own legitimacy if they do that. So the fact that they are discovering now that they need to cooperate to implement the peace agreement, I think is a good gesture. So let them apologize to each other and get back to the basic of the agreement and find the reason why this agreement got delayed by this time. After that, if they find out the reason and they agree that this is the reason why the implementation has delayed, particularly the implementation of the security arrangement, then now they can find a collective way of moving things forward. I'm glad already that the presidency has ordered that the leadership structure of the unified forces should be established, and after that they go to the graduation of the forces and then the deployment later. These are positive steps that they need to build on, and if they build on this security arrangement, the rest of things can move very smoothly because the security arrangement has been the block of the progress in the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement.
Right, Dr. James Okuk, a political analyst, thank you very much for joining us on the Dawn here today.
You are welcome.
Right, that was Dr. James Okuk, a political analyst. explaining and highlighting to us the current political situation in the country regarding the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement, but more specifically on Chapter 2 of the agreement, which is the security arrangements. And that's the end of the Dawn today. Thank you for watching. We'll meet again next time.